Good morning, everyone. I hope you're having a wonderful day. We are getting ready to jump into CSP, and we're working on Unit 4, Lesson 7, Conditionals Practice. Okay, so if you remember yesterday, we worked on the Tic Tac Tow game, and we looked at levels 1 and 2. Level 1 just let us play it. Level 2, we started by making the ability to make the selection of X or O. So our turn taking is what we did. So we're going to jump into level 3. All right, here we go. Level 3. Remember, we're doing tic-tac-toe, so that's one we want to follow. All right, here it is. We got our board here. And if you remember, we did the code for turn taking. Yeah, this section right here, number 1. So that allowed us to do turn taking. Let's see what we're doing today. All right, so I can see over here we got ABC. So it looks like the board is broke down. And oh, yeah, as I hover over, you see that it says ID is A space, B space, C space. So ABC, I'm going to assume it goes down the rest of the way. And if I look in design mode, yeah, don't jump in design mode. But these are little boxes, text boxes, that we're going to be able to, that we're dealing with, okay? So you can see that we have these different text boxes. And if I look at, well, I'm going to click on one. And I look at it, and right now the text is empty. But if we were to put an X on there, then it would show text as X. Or if it was an O, we'd see an O there. But we're not going to be messing with any of these boxes. We don't want to go in design mode at all. We're coding. They did the design for us. Just so you know, A space, we look here, D space, and that's G space. And they've got it lined up there. Okay, so I'm going to minimize this a little bit and read what we're doing. All right, checking for wins. It says, for our tic-tac-toe game, it's important to know the layout of the different text areas on the screen. As you can see in the diagram to the right here we looked at it, there are 9 different spaces that exist. And each is labeled with a letter from A to I. We will be using variables with the same names as these letter characters when we next create the conditional statement, our if statement, that checks whether there are 3 X's or O's in a row, triggering a win. All right, so we're going to be checking to see if we've won. Whew. Hope you're ready for this. Let's see what we got to do. Horizontal. Okay, we're going to look at the horizontal win first, it looks like. So we could win, this way, or this way. So horizontal. It says, let's first determine the win condition for the horizontal space. As we can see from the diagram above, we just looked at that, A, B, C, D, E, F, or G, H, I would be those wins. Okay. As we can see from, okay, they just read that to us again. There are 3 possible win conditions, A, B, C, D, E, F, or G, H, I. We will need to test all 3 to see whether they are filled with an X or an O. If so, then the conditional or the corresponding player wins. All right. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy, right? You guys are probably over that game by now. So here we go. We'll first test all 3. Okay, we need to test all 3 to see whether they're filled with X's or O's. If so, then there's one. Okay, I reread that again. Here we go. Creating a conditional statement that tests whether the X's or the O or the X or the O player has scored a win based on horizontal spaces. There are variables for A through I that contain string values. Let's look down. We should be seeing level 2. We're going to minimize this a little bit. Oh, here we go. Variable A equals get text from A space. So what that's going to do is right now there's nothing in there, so this has no value, right? But if I were to put an X there, it would go and get that value and say, oh, A gets text would be an X, right? Or if it was an O, it'd be an O, and then all the way through all these other variables. So that makes sense. Here's where we're going to start coding. Number 2, right? It says 2, 2. We're good to go. It says, so we're going to create a conditional statement that tests whether it's X or O. Okay, we got that. There are variables. We just talked about that. That contain string variables. We talked right now there's nothing in there. It's blank like that. So the string value will either be an X or an O if a square has been selected, or it will be blank if the square has not been picked, which makes sense. Nothing in there. Use a combination of and, so the and or logic operators, the double amped or the 2 vertical lines, to create the conditional logic that tests for a horizontal when. All right, here we go. We're going to do that first. So if true, so the first if and else if statements check horizontal row for when. So let's do this. I'm going to just type it out, okay? So we got to get rid of true. I know that's kind of odd. Kind of threw me off when I saw true in there. I'm like, what am I supposed to be putting? But we just want to make a true statement here, okay? So if A, and notice they were lowercase when we were looking at those. If A, now I want equals, right? It takes 2 equal signs to do equals. If you get 1, that gets the value. So if A equals, and we want, what is it going to equal? Well, it's got to equal that X, right? And I did a capital X because that's what I had used when I programmed. So if A equals X, so if that's an X, well, we know that's got to be an X, and that's got to be an X. And you can hear me saying and, right? So let's continue with this. If A equals X, oops, I don't know if I'm typing. And, so we want double and, right? Double amp sign. And, well, the next space is B. B equals X. Oops, I did a lowercase. And, right, we got to do that. And C equals X. Oh man, I did lowercase again. Okay, that would be our first win, right? Everybody agree with that one? Let's see. So let's see what it says. Do I need to do all of them, or are we just doing one? Let me go back up to my statement. Sometimes it's easier to work. Well, I'm kind of doing that. I could jump over, but oh, no, we better do all 3 of the wins. So they're saying now I got to do or. So I'm going to do a space or, because there's another way I could win, right? So vertical lines, remember it's over by your backspace or delete button. So there's or. A equals X and B equals X and C equals X, or we're going to go this next line. It would be D, E, and F. D, E, F? Yep, D, E, F. Okay, so same thing. D equals X. Oh man, I better make sure I keep that capital. And can you see where we could end up copying and pasting? Might make it a little bit quicker. D, our next one is E. Equals X. And F. Oops, I know that with capital. Okay, So I've got the next one. A, B, C, D, E, F. Then we got G, H, I. So I got to keep going with this. We got to do another OR. And now I'm going to do same thing, except I'm going to copy this. I'll show you. Right, copy that little chunk. Right after that, we got to be a little careful. We don't want to get a bunch of garbage in there. It come out looking good. So D, and it's not D now. It is G, H, I. All right. So that should be testing for X. So if I hit run, now the funny thing is I can't because O wins. But let's see if X will win. I got to make sure O don't win. Okay, X wins. So it is checking to see if X wins. We haven't programmed O yet. Now here's the cool thing, right? Same thing, right in here where this true is. Oopsie, oh boy, look, it put it in there for me. Looks nice, doesn't it? All that piled in there. But we need the same thing for O. So now everything that says X, A equals O, right? So A equals O. And now I could copy and paste that, but I'm not sure with all that, the different layers there. You can see how many layers. I'm going to type this first one and just copy and paste it. B. Now make sure you're doing O's and not zeros because they will not, right? An O is not the same thing as a zero. So if you were to do that, you wouldn't get an error, but you'd never get this win, right? It'd never match. And C. All right, so I've got that much. Now I'm just going to copy it. I should have copied this before I clicked off of it, and I went and had to redo this. Now, before I forget, oops, or right, now the next one is what? D, E, F. And then at the end of this, space, or I'm just going to paste the same one. I know it's ABC, but that's all right. Now it's going to be G, H, and I. Okay, now we should be able to check for O to win. So I'm going to click off of that. There we go. Why am I getting an error? AH. Oh, right there. You see that AH? I messed up. Get that out of there. There we go. Reset, run. So it's not working yet, but if you remember from yesterday, it was already saying X wins. So we're just going to see. Oh, yeah, X wins. But let's just see. We're going to go back and make sure O can still win. Oh, I can't win diagonally. What am I thinking? I got to win vertically, right? O wins. Okay. That still works. Didn't break anything there. Remember, it's always a good idea to check to make sure that when we program something, we didn't break it. And X is winning. So it's still working. So if this is true, then the program ends and says X wins. Else if that's not true, it checks this. And if that's true, then the program ends right there. But I don't think we're done yet. Because now we did horizontal and we scroll down. Now we got to check for vertical. And this is a dirty trick they did on us, right? I got to the bottom here. I'm like, yes, I'm about done. And then, no, I'm not. So now it says, next we need to check the win conditions for a vertical space, for the vertical spaces. As we can see from the diagram above, there are three possible vertical win conditions: ADG, which is ADG, BEH, or CFI. And I know these are a little bit harder to keep track of just because of that vertical. So we'll need to test all three of them to see if there is a win, right? So let's do this. It's more or less the same thing. So, same thing, although I'm doing vertical check. So, if it wasn't a horizontal win, which those two check, let's check for a vertical is what it's saying. So here we go. I think I can put this in. There, yeah, same. It's the same code, which is really kind of cool. Just a little bit different. So now I'm doing A. My next one is D. And the third one is G. But we're not checking for O this time. They want us to do X first. Well, I can do that. I can just switch O out for X, right? Since X is the first player, we probably ought to keep it first. Now, we're not done. We just checked the first column. Space, or, space. I'm going to do a Control V. Paste it again. There we go. We got our O, our OR. Our O, yeah, we got our O. All right, so now our next one is BEH. So B for the X, E for X, and BEH, H for X. So here we go. Oop, I left a small or a lowercase x in there. We don't want that. There we go. So A, D, G, B, E, H, and then CFI. So we got to do another OR. Space, space. OR. I'm going to paste that in. And I said C, F. Ooh, that's getting long. And I for the X win. Now, to speed things up, I'm going to take this whole thing. Maybe I'm not. I'm going to do a Control minus. Control minus. Whoa, that's a little too small. I got to get all of this. So we're going to try this again. Starting here. I want to be sure that I don't go outside. Control C, because then I might pick up one of the parentheses there, and that could cause us some issues. All right, I'm going to do a Control plus, zoom in a little bit. All right, so then we're on to the else. Okay, so we got that. Oops, there it went. I'm going to paste this, Control V. Now, it's the same thing except for O. Except for O. So all I got to do is take out and put O in there. Again, make sure you're doing O, and I'm making sure it's capital. I could check to see what's going to happen with the lowercase. Code.org might have done some programming on the back side of this to make sure that lowercase and uppercase, it doesn't matter, but they might not have. So it's always important to keep track. I'm going to click off of there. All right, so reset, run. Now I should be able to win vertically. And of course, this ain't going to be a win vertically if I don't start playing a little better. I end up beating myself. There we go. X wins. Well, we don't know that, right? Because it always says X wins. Let's try a O win in the middle. Yep. So that looks like it's working now. I'm going to do a control minus. There I can see a little bit more. All right, so we got that. Now the next thing diagonally. Finally, we need to check the when conditions for a diagonal. And let's see, what is that? Okay, check. Okay, this is telling us check conditional statement that tests whether the X or O player has scored a win based on diagonal spaces. So that is what we're seeing here. Okay, we got these last two. And we're on 4. I don't see a 5. So we won't be going down here to 5. We just got to finish up through 4. So here's the things in here. First one's X. Well, guess what? It's the same pattern. Control V. We put all that in there. The problem is I need to check diagonal. I can go AEI or CEG. Well, I'm going to do AEI. I'm going to write this down. Otherwise, I'm going to end up forgetting what these are. So here we go. AEI. And the other one is CEG. So here we go. I pasted it in there. So the first one is A, E. So AEI. Now here's the funny part. There's only the two. Or I could do C, E, G, right? There's only the two. And it doesn't matter if I went from the top up, but we're just going to do top down, right? But there's only two. So guess what? Part of this program, or this piece of code here, not program, this last little section, I don't need that last or. I only need one or in there. There's only one way to win. Or not one way, but there's only the two ways to win, either AEI or CEG. So I didn't need that last section. Okay, everything's capitalized. Now, just like before, we got to do this for O. Okay, I should have copied just that portion of code, but I did not. Control V, put that in there. So the next one is C. Oh, and we're doing it for O. No. I need to be careful here. I already kind of messed up a little bit in the fact that, yeah, I got both of them. So now we are doing for O. Oh, confusing myself. Or what am I doing? Boy. A. E. AEI. Or C. Ooh, I had an error there, didn't I? C. E. Oh, guess what I didn't do? I gotta put my O's in here. And then, like I said, the rest of this is gone. All right. Did I get it? Okay. Let's try it. Reset. Run. We already checked X. X, O, X, O, X, O wins. Oh, I've seen a draw. I haven't seen that before. X, O, X, O, X, O, X. X wins. All right. Looks like it's working. Okay. Well, here's a good thing. We are done with this section. So, hope you enjoyed this. Hope this helps you. And I'll see you for level 4 on the next video. Have a good day.